Contractors or employees? Choose wrong and pay twice. The IRS just audited a photography studio and hit them with $40,000 bill for misclassifying their team. Let me show you how to avoid becoming the next cautionary tale. Here's a scenario that plays out consistently. The studio's growing, you need help, so you bring on an editor, maybe an assistant, definitely some second shooters. You have them fill out a W-9 and you pay them. You send them a 1099 at the end of the year. Problem solved, right? Wrong. The IRS doesn't care about what forms they filed. They care about the reality of the working relationship. And if the reality is that you're treating someone like an employee but calling them a contractor, you're going to pay. You'll pay all the payroll taxes you should have been paying, plus penalties and plus interest. That's why it pays twice. You pay once when you should have, and then again as a penalty. So let me break it down what's actually happening when studios get this wrong. You think you're saving money by using contractors instead of employees. No payroll taxes, no workers' comp, no unemployment insurance, no benefits. You pay them their rate and then they're done. Simple and cheap. But the IRS knows this game. They know businesses have every incentive to call people contractors even when they're really employees. So they scrutinize this aggressively, and photography studio owners are absolutely on the radar because our industry has a terrible track record with worker classification. Here's the test the IRS uses. It comes down to control. Who controls what work is done, and how it's done. They look at the three main categories: behavioral control, financial control, and the type of relationship. Behavioral control means that you direct the person how the work is done. If you're telling your editor how exactly to edit the photos, what presets to use, what style to match, when to work, where to work, you're exercising behavioral control. That looks like an employee relationship. A true contractor decides how to do the work. You give them the outcome you want, they figure out how to deliver it, you don't supervise their process, you don't tell them when and where. They have the freedom to complete the job however they see fit. Financial control is about whether the person has a real business. Do they market their services to others? Do they have multiple clients? Do they set their own rates, or do you tell them what you'll pay? Do they have their own equipment and bear their own expenses? Do they have the opportunity for profit and loss? If someone only works for you, accepts whatever rate you offer, uses your equipment and has no other clients, they don't have financial control. They're financially dependent on you, and that's an employee. The relationship factor looks at things whether you have a written contract, whether the relationship is ongoing or project-based, whether you provide benefits, and what both parties believe the relationship to be. But here's the key. What you call it doesn't matter if the reality is different. You can have someone sign a contract that says they're an independent contractor all day long, but if you're controlling their work like an employee, the IRS will reclassify them as an employee. The label does not override the facts. So let's talk about the common roles in photography studios and how they should actually be classified. So let's start with second shooters. This is where I see the most misclassification. You hire someone to shoot alongside you at weddings, you tell them what time to arrive, what to shoot, how to shoot it, where to position themselves, you provide the shot list, you might even provide equipment, and they work most of your events throughout the season. So that right there, that's an employee. I know you don't want it to be. I know it's easier and cheaper to treat them as a contractor, but by every measure of the IRS test, you're exercising the type of control that defines an employee. Now, could a second shooter legitimately be a contractor? Absolutely, but the relationship would need to look very different. They should probably have their own photography business, they work for multiple studios, not just you, and you'd hire them for their specific expertise or style. You would also give them the creative freedom, not detailed direction. They'd invoice you for the services rather than you just cutting them a check. Now I know that's rare in wedding photography. Most second shooter relationships are clearly employment relationships, but studios classify them as contractors because it's convenient and cheap. Now let's talk about editors. If you have someone who edits your photos regularly, works set hours, follows your specific editing guidelines and presets, and primarily works for you, that's probably an employee, especially if they're editing on your computer in your studio during hours you set. But editing can legitimately be contract work if it's structured right. If you send raw files to an editing service that serves multiple photographers, they edit according to their process and expertise. They work on their own equipment and schedule and they invoice you per project. That can be a legitimate contractor relationship. The key difference is independence. Are they running their own business, or are they just working for you under the guise of being an independent contractor? Now, studio assistants, those are almost always employees. If someone is helping you during shoots, managing your calendar, answering emails, organizing equipment, especially if they're doing this regularly from your location, that's an employee. There's really no other way to legitimately classify that as a contractor. So here's what happens when you get this wrong. Let's say you've been paying somebody about $20,000 a year as a contractor. The IRS audits you and determines they should have been an employee this whole time. You now owe the employer portion of the Social Security and Medicare taxes, which is 7.65%. That's about $1,500 in taxes. But wait, there's more. You also owe federal unemployment taxes, state unemployment taxes, and potentially workers' comp, premiums you didn't pay, and another $1,000 or so. Then comes the penalties. The IRS can assess penalties of up to 40% of unpaid taxes. That's another $2,000 plus interest on everything from the date it should have been paid. You're easily looking at $10,000 or more for just one misclassified worker over 3 years. And here's the thing that really hurts. You already paid that person $20,000 a year, the money is gone, you can't go back and reduce what you paid them to cover those taxes. You're just out the additional $10,000, that's the pay twice part. You paid them already, now you're paying for the IRS for your mistakes. This is why classification matters so much. It's not just about being technically correct, it's about avoiding massive financial liability that can seriously damage your business. So what should you actually do? First, honestly evaluate your current team using the IRS factors. Be brutally honest about who controls the work, whether they have true independence, and what the real relationship is. If you determine that someone should be an employee, bite the bullet and put them on payroll. Yes, it's going to cost more. You're going to be paying employer taxes and dealing with the payroll administration, but it's way less than you'll pay if you get caught misclassifying them. Payroll isn't as scary or expensive as you think. Services like Gusto or QuickBooks Payroll handle everything for you. You pay your worker, the service calculates and withholds the taxes, files all the required forms, and keeps you compliant. It might cost you an extra $20 or $30 per month plus employer taxes. And that's nothing compared to audit risk. If you generally want to use contractors, structure the relationship correctly, hire people who have their own established businesses, and give them real independence. Use them for specific projects and rather than ongoing regular work, and make sure they have multiple clients and are marketing their services broadly. Now here's a reality check question. If the IRS audited you tomorrow, could you defend every contractor classification? If the answer is no, fix it now before you get caught. And if you've been misclassifying people and you're worried, talk to a CPA about your options. There's an IRS voluntarily compliance program that lets you fix your past mistakes with reduced penalties. It's not fun, but it's better than waiting for an audit. Now one more thing, some states are even more aggressive than the IRS about their worker classification. States like California, New York, Massachusetts, they all have their own tests and they audit aggressively. Don't just think about federal requirements. Know your state rules too. The bottom line is, worker misclassification is one of the most common and most expensive mistakes. The temptation to save money by using contractors is huge, but the risk isn't worth it. Classify your team correctly, pay what you owe, and protect your business from devastating penalties. If this video just saved you from a massive mistake, smash that like button and subscribe for more essential business knowledge for your studio owners. Comment it below and be honest. Are you confident in how you've classified your team or are realizing you have a problem? Remember, build a six-figure studio means doing the right thing, even when doing the wrong thing could be easier and cheaper in the short term. Get your classifications correct, sleep better at night, and build something that lasts, and I'll see you in the next video.